So thefts are out of control in this country, and retail thefts are off the charts. We've covered so many different stories of so many different varieties of these thefts that honestly, it gets tiring. Honestly, when I'm walking through a store and I'm actually putting items in my cart, I kind of feel like a sucker because I know for sure that in most places, including where I live in New York State, if I were to just steal everything, there would be virtually no consequences for doing so. And this attitude of going soft on crime is a nationwide problem. This attitude of pretending that all criminals are Aladdin and these people are just stealing bread for their family and it's no big deal has serious consequences. It has consequences for the communities where theft is allowed to go unchallenged, and those consequences can be viewed in a decrease in merchandise on the shelf for people actually wanting to pay for things at the store. It can lead to store closures, which is a reduction in not only jobs but in goods and services. We've talked about how CVS and Walgreens are closing locations in communities with a bunch of seniors because people are just going in, stealing whatever they want, and they can't replenish the losses any further, so they just have to close the stores. And a lot of people on the left say, again, no big deal, they're just Aladdins, and honestly, it's those big corporations that are at fault. They decided to close their store when they're no longer profitable, and for some reason, that means that they should be punished and we should look down on them, because why don't they just keep their stores open and let everybody steal everything? Because something, corporations are bad, yay communism re. And even when you point out that a lot of these thefts are a part of organized retail theft, like in San Francisco, where they did a raid on one of these organized retail theft operations, and they discovered nearly $8 million in merchandise, they still insist, no, these people are in poverty, there's a recession caused by restrictions that left-wingers advocated for, by the way. We should just be saying, oh, it's no big deal, and let's give them a slap on the wrist and let it continue, because it's not violent. Don't worry about it. It never gets violent. It's no big deal, despite the fact that time after time after time, what we find is that these criminals are willing to jump to violence at the drop of a hat, and that's the story we're going to be covering today. An 83-year-old man out of Home Depot was killed, an Army veteran, over merchandise, and it's all because people are under the impression that all these criminals are Aladdin and they have a natural right to steal the product of other people's labor, and if you get in the way, somehow you had it coming. Now, before I get further into the story, we have a sponsor for today's video, so let me toss it to the sponsor, and this is an online sponsor, so no stealing from them. Then we'll bring it back over here and we'll discuss it on the other side. If your New Year's resolution, like nearly half of people in the United States of America, is to be a healthier person overall, then I have something for you. And of course, what I'm talking about is this amazing powder over at Keto with Justice. This powder can help elevate the level of ketones in your body, which helps with weight management and can help prolong a state of ketosis if you're on the keto diet. And luckily for you, you can get it for 51% off at ketowithjustice.com. 60-day money-back guarantee, 51% off. Meet those New Year's resolution goals finally. So the story today that we're talking about comes out of Hillsborough, North Carolina, and we're covering it for two different reasons. One of which you guys understand because it's consistent on my channel. We talk about crime, we talk about the consequences of the crime, and we need to disabuse people of the notion that criminals are Aladdin and they're just kind-hearted people that are 3 genie wishes away from being amazing heart of gold kind of people and a prince and all that special, wonderful, nonsensical stuff. The second reason we're covering this story is because the perpetrator is still at large. This person who murdered an 83-year-old man for merchandise at Home Depot is still out there. He's still on the streets. He has not been captured yet, and that is something that I cannot stand for on this channel. So I want you guys, when we're going over this, if you know anything about this person, call the appropriate tip lines, spread this so people can get the accurate information, and report this person because he needs to serve consequences, because this worthless scumbag killed an 83-year-old man over Home Depot merchandise.
Violent attack on an elderly Home Depot worker is now a homicide investigation. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Angela Taylor. Gary Razor died this week, a month after suffering severe injuries when a shoplifter pushed him to the ground. CBS 17's Nick Sturdivant is here. Nick, police are still looking for the person responsible, and this is just a senseless act.
Now, the story is pretty straightforward. This guy stole a bunch of merchandise. He was walking out out of the store, the elderly man who's 83 years old, Gary Razor, who goes and checks your receipts, like many of you know when you go to Home Depot is the thing, comes out to stop him because he's rushing out with all this merchandise, and he violently shoves this 83-year-old man.
Look close. Hillsborough police need your help finding this man. In this surveillance video from October 18th, the man is leaving the Home Depot in Hillsborough when the worker, 82-year-old Gary Razor, steps in to help.
And I just want to point out a few things about the suspect in this instance. First and foremost, look at the size of this man. Look at how huge he is, and look at how he violently shoved this elderly man in order to steal from Home Depot. This is the kind of person that we're dealing with, somebody who uses their size as an intimidation factor and has no care for the elderly, no compassion for the weak, somebody who would take advantage of them in an instant in order to get what they want right now in the moment. And I also want you to take note of what's in his card. These are 3 of the same exact items. This guy is not stealing bread for his family. He's not trying to feed his innocent kids. If he has any kids, likely he is nowhere in their lives. This is a repeat offender, likely a thug, a thief, and somebody that we should condemn, shame, and if North Carolina has the death penalty, consider putting him up on those charges. Maybe you say, oh, it was just a shove, whatever. That's not the intent you need in order to actually do that. But you know what? I'm tired of that nonsense. We have a thing called felony murder. That looks like a good amount of merchandise in terms of economic value. So this was somebody dying during the course of a felony. So we should at least get some felony murder charges related to this. On top of that, I just want to point out for you guys in the audience who think, you know, this is a guy that's likely just experiencing poverty. We would all like the chance to kill an 83-year-old man if we just found ourselves in poverty. Where's your compassion for the criminal? He was just honestly experiencing poverty. He was just going through it because of economic recession, devastation in our nation. We should really, really have compassion for him. Look at his sweater. You might notice that there's some lettering on the sleeves on his sweater, and for those of you in my podcast audience, it's black sweater with white lettering, and that lettering says Calvin Klein. This guy is wearing a designer sweater. Maybe if he needed money so bad, he could have went with a plain, cheaper hoodie, like the hoodies that I sell in my merchandise store. Yes, that's a weird place for a plug, and I don't apologize for it, but instead, he's wearing a designer Calvin Klein hoodie during the course of his robbery, and people are going to make the case that he's just a victim of circumstance, that he's just in poverty, and honestly, arresting him for the murder that he committed would just be like arresting poverty. And for those of you who heard the date that this happened in October 18th, yes, that is in fact true. This was an incident that took place in October 18th, and the man has been in the hospital more or less ever since. He ultimately ended up dying earlier this month, in the month of December, based on the injuries that he was given. So he had a long recovery. He even had to have his 83rd birthday in the hospital, and he ultimately ended up passing away. And I just want you guys to remember, while we're talking about poverty and all this stuff, this was somebody who is 83 years old, who is working at a Home Depot, probably not somebody who is in the best financial position. In fact, one of the things that is noted in one of these news segments is that he was considering calling it quits and retiring finally at 83 years old at the end of this year.
Adding to the heartbreak of it all, his son says Razor was on the verge of retiring.
He was going to actually hang it up in January.
So this guy was just a few months away from hanging it up, quitting his job, going into retirement, spending time with his wife, this United States military veteran, and he was killed over some merchandise, and because of a system that considers this person an innocent victim and this guy a corporate stooge or something like that.
Army veteran Gary Razor stepped out of his booth to confront a suspect cops say was making off with 3 power washers.
And let's be clear about something. While this case is unique in that it resulted in somebody dying, thefts are not these non-violent incidents most of the time that are no big deal. Thefts are something that cuts to the core of our civilization. There's a reason why every single country that has English common law, that has protections for private property rights, actually prospers. There's a reason why countries that don't have that devolve and they become authoritarian hellscapes, because the basis for civilization is that recognition of private property rights. You cannot advance as a civilization if you're just allowing people to take whatever they want whenever they want, and you have no system, no established system of rights that recognizes the right that people have a right to their life and and their liberty, and the product of both of those is their justly acquired property. So this person is not just a threat to this old man. This person is not just a threat to Home Depot. This person is a threat to our civilization because he breaks the basic foundations of our civilization in order to get himself some instant gratification, and it is unacceptable. And it's always unacceptable no matter the amount that you take it, no matter how big the corporation is that you take it from, no matter if you push the guy and he just ended up in the hospital, or he got up, dusted himself off, or was fine, or if this person died. The theft is an evil, and we need to confront that. We need to acknowledge that because our entire civilization and the basis for our economy is on the line. I've said it a million times. These kind of actions, the lack of rule of law, is what creates poverty. Poverty does not create the lack of rule of law. People get that backwards, and they're wrong each and every time they get that backwards. We need to be able to know that if we invest the time, if we invest the resources, if we seek to produce for others, that production, the product of our hard work, won't just be taken from us. And these people violate that sacred oath that we make to one another, and they should be punished for it. So yes, this guy's a murderer. Yes, this guy's a scumbag. But all of these thieves, all of these people that are taking advantage of the breakdown of our system are also monsters.
Razor suffered a broken pelvis and hip. He actually celebrated his 83rd birthday in the hospital.
But the courageous senior's condition deteriorated. He died of complications from his injuries 6 weeks after the attack.
And the person that's responsible for this heinous act, the person that deserves all of the consequences and all of the ire of our civilization, is this man right here, who the police are looking for and hopefully they catch soon. And not society, not our capitalist economy, not income inequality, not systemic structures of systematic structural racism. This person.
Police say the man was stealing pressure washers from the garden center.
And I hope he gets caught. And I hope he gets prosecuted. Only so he doesn't ever do this to someone else.
Yvonne Razor told us back in October that her husband recognized the shoplifter and says he got emotional when he saw the surveillance video. At the time, she said he celebrated his 83rd birthday in the hospital. She told us Friday evening he died this week.
I'm so sick of this sympathy for the criminal attitude that is taking hold in this country, when in reality, these people are not innocent victims, and most of the time when you look at a criminal committing a crime, what you see is what you get. These people violate some of the rules, and that should be indicative of us that we should be worried that they're willing to violate more of the rules if it's for their own convenience, and that was proven out in this case. So the idea that they have like a code, and I once saw a movie where a thief was a decent guy, or remember Aladdin, I saw that in my childhood, and this guy makes me think of Aladdin, is nonsensical. You need to get that out of your mind and start focusing on the reality that we live in. We are currently in the midst of a spike in crime that is going on nationwide, and it is because we have gone soft on crime. It's because we forgot the strides that we had to make in our criminal justice system in order to force the crime rate down, and we are paying the consequences of this. And right now there is a woman who is widowed just because people did not want to do what was necessary in order to put these people behind bars. How much do you want to bet that this guy was arrested previously? How much do you want to bet that this guy, when he's captured, hopefully if he's captured, is going to show a pattern of behavior that we needed to acknowledge and could have been cut off well before this incident? We've seen it a million times, and hopefully people get the message from here. However, I'm not optimistic. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about a man murdered in Home Depot over merchandise. Till next time.